to the Local History and Archives Department of the Hamilton Public Library. If you'd like to follow me, we can come into our public area. If you come into Local History and Archives, you come to the information desk, and we can help you with any questions relating to Hamilton and the area, history of your house, history of a church, whatever you care to think about, we can probably help you with something. We're in the back of the Local History Department where most people don't get to come, and we've pulled out some representational pieces from the collection. This is a facsimile of the Gutenberg Bible, which is the first book that was printed using movable type in the 1450s. Of course, it's illustrated. This is a facsimile, but it's quite beautiful, and we have this available for the public to use.
So the public can take a look at it and just understand,
absolutely, they can get
what
it
the
out.
original.
If they can read Latin, they'll do really well.
All right.
And then this book here is the oldest book the library owns. This is a copy of Plutarch's Lives. It's in Latin again, but it's from 1472.
So this is an original book.
This is an original book from 1472, yes.
That's printed on what kind of paper?
Rag pulp paper, which means it's lasted really, really well. You'll see a little bit of water staining here, and some of the pages have wormholes in them, but other than that, it's in excellent condition. And then this is a bound book of Hamilton newspapers, the Hamilton Journal and Gore District Mercantile and Agricultural Intelligencer.
What year is that?
That's from 1838. Mm-hmm. And included in this volume is all of the reporting on Lord Durham's report. After the Rebellion of 1837, he came up with a report advocating uniting the two Canadas and creating responsible government, which led eventually to this document, which is the British North America Act in 1867, creating the country of Canada.
1867, yes. 150 years.
Yes, next year, 150 years. A sesquicentennial is what you call it. This book here is a book by Sir Danville, which is a 18th century book of maps, and it's used actually quite frequently by people doing their genealogy. After World War I and World War II, a lot of the European countries disappeared. So this is a map from 1754, and it shows Europe and England. It also shows countries that don't exist anymore, like Bohemia, Bavaria, and people can find actually town names. And we've had this used quite frequently for people searching for where their families came from.
And it is in Latin as well?
It's in French.
Very detailed.
Oh, it is very detailed. I mean, some of these cities and towns don't exist anymore, haven't existed for 100 years. And then we also have some memorabilia relating to sports. For example, Walter Hornby was a runner from Hamilton, and he ran in the Boston Marathon and came in 7th. That's his trophy. He also kept a scrapbook, strangely enough, on newspaper samples, or not newspaper, wallpaper samples, which makes it a rather interesting scrapbook.
Is there any particular reason that he would have done that? Just cheap?
It was probably available.
Yeah. So
he just kept it on there and pasted absolutely everything in relating to his career. And one of the things he did do also was he won the Around the Bay Road Race. And this is a trophy for first place in Around the Bay Road Race.
Which is still ongoing
Which
today.
is still ongoing. It's the oldest continuous road race in North America, older than the Boston Marathon. Back in the 1860s, George Washington Johnson was a school teacher in Binbrook, and he wrote a poem called When You and I Were Young to his girlfriend, Maggie. They got married, and then J.A. Butterfield found a copy of the poem and put it to music, and it became When You and I Were Young, Maggie, which is probably one of the most famous songs ever to come out of Hamilton. It's still recorded today, and a couple of years ago, George Washington Johnson was inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame on the strength of one song, which was this one. As well as books and other material, we have ephemera, which is things, obviously not books. We have a collection of material from the Hamilton Police Department, which is part of the Municipal Archives, including this, which is a billy club, which is particularly used by police officers on horseback, so that you can reach and whack the criminals on the head without having to lean down too far. And this is also from the Hamilton Police Archives. This is a set of handcuffs.
How old are they?
They're the 19th century. It wouldn't work for me. I can just slide them on and off. really easily.
Yeah, but they have screws on them to tighten them up.
Yep. And the way you do that is you just turn that in,
Yeah.
and it opens up. And then you turn it like that, and it's locked.
And so this was something donated by the police?
It came with the police archives that we have. We have all sorts of police records, beat books and photographs and handcuffs.
So great for even mystery writers doing research of
Oh,
the
yes.
area, that type of thing.
Yes. 1972 was a really good year for football in Hamilton. The Hamilton Tiger Cats won the Grey Cup, but more importantly, for the first time ever, the Hamilton Hurricanes won the Dominion Championship for semi-professional football. The Hamilton Hurricanes went out west as the underdogs, were expected to be absolutely destroyed by the Western team, and instead they won 33-8.
Wow.
And they came home to this at City Hall. They all got championship rings, and they were inducted into Hamilton Sports Hall of Fame a couple of years ago as the second team to be inducted after the Tiger Cats, of course. And that's the program from the winning game. Okay, Hamilton City Directories started in 1853, so this is the very first one. You could look up by street address to see who lived in your house, or you could look up by name of person. So you could look up William Holton, who was a nurseryman who lived at 1 Napier Street.
Hey, that must have been my great-grandfather.
Probably was.
So if somebody has a home or a property here in Hamilton and they do want to research the history of that property, it's all accessible here.
Oh yes, we have the city directories, which are a good starting point. We also have the assessment rolls, which are very accurate. We have them from 1847 to 1899, and that tells how much taxes, and it's very accurate to date when a house was built. The IODE, or the Imperial Order Daughters of the Empire, started in England, and by the turn of the century, in 1900, they had come to Hamilton. This is one of the original IODE books from the Paardeberg chapter, named after a battle in the Boer War. And starting with World War I, they kept a book called the Honor Roll. And what they would do is each person in the IODE who had somebody serving would fill in one of these. Sometimes they had a picture, sometimes they didn't. And it gave the honors, it gave their birth date, who their parents were, any promotions that they had.
Can you give us a date on one of those?
This is 1945. Some of them are from World War I, some of them are from World War II. This is from World War I. And this gentleman actually made the supreme sacrifice, which means he was killed during the war. Now, he was killed by accident, but others, it'll give the battle that they were killed in and where they're buried. And this one is actually filed by rank, so it's the highest ranking to the lowest ranking, and it doesn't matter which war, so it's sort of interspersed World War I, World War II.
So people doing their genealogy or doing their family history will also come in here and just, again, find these records invaluable.
Yes. This is Major Chester Walters, who joined the armed forces in 1914 and was sent with the Canadian Expeditionary Force here to Siberia. And he served there until the present, then returned from overseas. And this is his picture.
So in 1914, this young lad went to Siberia.
He did.
And came. It was his father who was mayor.
No, he was mayor.
Go.
Just before I joined the library in 1978, we got the first accrual of Hamilton Spectator negatives, and we now have all of the daily Spectator negatives from 1955 up to 1998.
Now just hold on, that's 1955 to
1998.
To 98.
Including some earlier ones that are in something called the S file. So the earliest Spectator negatives we have are from the royal visit of 1939.
Can you pull out one of these folders and
Sure.
just give us an indication of what's in one?
This shows, it gives you the names of the stories. They're not very specific, like Women's PC Association meeting, office men, and murder on Ferguson South. Oh, that's an interesting one.
So these are the photographers who worked for the Hamilton Spectator have subsequently, the Spectator has supplied these images to the library.
The Spectator owned them. They transferred ownership to us.
Right.
And we have them available. There are 2 million images in this collection.
2 million. What a resource. What a fantastic
It's
resource.
It's huge. Yes, absolutely huge.
So now, Margaret, thank you so much for that tour. How long have you been affiliated with the library?
My first day at the library was August 15th, 1978.
And why did you come here? You're a Hamilton girl?
Well, I'm from Hamilton, and I couldn't get a job teaching. I got a teaching certificate, and I heard that there was a job at the library, and I thought I would just take it until I got a job teaching. Well, that was 37 years ago.
And what do you love about the archives?
Oh, I love everything about them. My particular favorite is photographs, but just being able to touch things that people touched like 100 years, 200 years ago, and you learn something new every day.
What's your favorite part of the archives?
Photographs.
And why? What have you found there?
Well, photographs give you an actual visual record. So it's like I remember some of these things that I wasn't even alive because the buildings are long gone, but I've seen a photograph of it and I can remember it.
What's the earliest photograph we have here in the collection?
The oldest photograph that's dated in the collection is from May 24th, 1860, and it's the dedication of the Gore Park Fountain for the Queen's birthday.
Was that a tinted print or black and white?
It's sepia.
Huh. Who was the photographer, would you know?
Robert Milne.
Thank you. So, Margaret, how do you feel about the new technologies and what's happening with augmented reality and virtual reality? How do you think, is that an asset to the library system, or how will it work how will you work together?
Well, as far as this department goes, the asset is in digitization, because we can make our material available for people all across the world. We have 13,000 photographs on our website now. We can put text up, and that means that people don't actually physically have to walk into the department to see the material. They will be able to see it from remotely from anywhere in the world.
But surely the ultimate pleasure is always to come in and actually handle the original artifact.
Yes, but we have people writing us from Russia that really can't do that, so they have to get a scanned copy of a hockey score, which is what he wanted.
Yeah.